I think.
Well, aloha, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PWT Talks NXT. I don't know why I've been doing the hand thing on the screen.
Me either.
Handful of weeks, but I've been doing it. Nate, here's the deal. Been ready for a good 5 minutes. Was waiting for you, and then I realized I was waiting on a place other than StreamYard, which is where we do this.
Were you back on Skype or something like it was back in the blog talk days?
Well, Skype does not exist anymore, so to
I know.
my credit, that's not where I was. I was hanging out on what's that other one that people talk on that
Teams,
I do?
Zoom.
No, something
Discord,
more.
Slack.
Yes, Discord. I was on Discord, apparently waiting for Chris Lansdale to talk about New Japan, so we could be like, "Hey, is anybody left in this company?" No, that sucks. Yeah, so I'm here now. We're hanging out and we're talking Zaruka. Are they? Will they? Won't they? This is sitcom levels of, hey, we got to drag this out 4 seasons somehow. But yeah, that's it. Let me grab it. Okay, so that wasn't our main event. Our main event was Shiloh Hill versus Ethan Page. 12 minutes and 26 seconds. This is your main event. Ethan Page winning this one. I actually went into this one thinking that Shiloh maybe had a shot, despite this being free TV, just because Shiloh is the kind of guy I think you shoot the moon with because he's awesome. But then they had a scene where Miles Bourne talked about getting involved and he knows what he needs to do or whatever that looks like. And then they started talking about how close Ethan Page is to breaking the record of number of days he has now broken number of defenses. He hasn't broken number of days, but he's real close to that. And I was like, why would they stop him 14 days short? They're just not going to. They are going to take him there. So I realized what they were going to do. I didn't know that the Vanity Project was going to be more instrumental in this. Ryan Solorio in the chat says, I'm glad Miles Bourne didn't cost Shiloh Hill to win. So am I. I think this is headed for a triple threat in a brand that is quite fond of triple threats and more.
We'll talk about that later.
We've got a triple threat coming next week, and we've got, I think, a triple threat coming here because the post match was Miles Bourne getting a chair rolled to him by I think Shiloh Hill. That's what I typed. So I hope that was right, but I'm not 100% sure. Could have been that a stagehand was like, oh, there's supposed to be a chair there. Let's roll one in. But whatever it was, a chair. He threatens to wreck Ethan Page's ankle until Ethan finally gives in and says, okay, you got a title match next week. And then he wrecks his ankle anyway because Miles Bourne is not your friendly neighborhood Miles Bourne. Anyway, so yeah, the fact that it's next week is why I think this is going triple threat because I think that Ethan Page said, you got your match next week. I'm almost positive that's what he said. So assuming that's what he said, then I'm going to say this goes to a triple threat at Vengeance Day. If that's not what he said and I just heard him wrong, then don't mind me. I'm just making this up as I go. But anyway, Ethan Page, still your champion, because that is what Ethan Page do. There have been some great reigns in North American Championship history, and we are certainly in one of them. I'm Kelly Wells. I'm your host. Nate, who are you? And let's talk main event.
Last time I checked, I think I'm still Nate Lindberg. I hadn't thought about the triple threat. With bringing Shiloh Hill back in, to be honest, because like where they did point out the number of days, that he needs. I think it was 2 weeks to come up on Obafemi and Carmelo's reign, and I think technically Oba outshone Carmelo. I don't think they're tied. I think Oba is like 2 or 3 days over Melo's reign. But regardless, when they brought that up, I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, with him having that, with that coming up and it being so close, I wonder if Shiloh's going to win this. And that was kind of what I was expecting after that comment. I'm sitting here by myself, but I said it out loud. I'm like, oh, he's going to lose. Then he didn't. But with the Vanity Project interfering, and all of that, I'm sure Shiloh could make a claim to Mr. Stone next week, like, hey, that's not fair. I want to do this fair and square, even though a triple threat's a no DQ. Oh, now that I think about it, where it is a no DQ match, and Shiloh was so averse to using weapons tonight because those are part of the rules. Maybe in a no DQ match, he'd go harder on the weapons. Like, I don't know. That just popped in my head. Regardless, wasn't what I was thinking about, triple threat coming out of this tonight. I was figuring the match next week. I was actually talking with Jobin on Discord a little bit before we went live, and both of us were talking about how Bourne may get the win next week because they probably want Obafemi to hold on to that, the longest reigning North American Championship, accolade or whatever you want to call it. But they could do that with the triple threat. I'd have to look it up, and I'll look it up, I think, when I'm done talking here. But how many more days, or somebody in the chat might even get to it before me. But how many days left? Because I think they said 2 weeks. I don't think they gave a number.
14? Of days. Yeah, I think it's like 14. I think he's breaking it because I don't think it matters that it's Obafemi. If it was like Wes Lee, I would say 100% they're going to break it because Wes Lee is not currently in the company.
Yeah.
But because it is two guys currently in the company, I think they could go either way and be happy with it.
Yeah, no, and Goodfellow just said it too. I think they're probably more concerned about records, Oba records for both bigger belts. So that's true too. Either way, even if Ethan does surpass Oba's reign, I'm all for it. I think Ethan is a hell of a talent. He's probably my favorite in NXT right now. With the exception of a couple others like Joe Hendry and things like that. But I love what Ethan Page has done basically since day one, showing up in NXT. So yeah, I'd be all for that. Triple threat, like I said, wasn't what I was thinking, but you kind of talked me into it. I think it's all going to obviously it's going to depend on what happens next week in the match, Ethan versus Miles. But my guess is either that match goes off, just the two of them, and either Ethan wins because of Vanity Project or something like that, or Shiloh may wind up getting involved in that match next week. Make a case to Mr. Stone to get himself put in it. But either way, I don't know. I'm here for it. You could make a case for Shiloh Hill right now to become the new North American champion. You can make a case for Miles Bourne, especially with that extra fire that Miles shown tonight. Shiloh, yes, he's new. I think they said tonight was his 7th televised match or something like that. But he's so unique. He is such a unique talent, and I love it. Just a simple fact, like I've never seen somebody take a weapon away from somebody else, like a chair, and then go put it back, set it back up, and like put it back down perfectly where it was.
It was so smooth both times.
Yeah, and then he did it with the title. It was amazing.
Did it with the chair, amazing. Sat up the chair, patted the chair, did it with the belt, and Vic puts it over like Shiloh's mind just moves faster than the average mind. He knows what Page is going to try to do, and you say that Page is your favorite guy on the brand, and I'm like, he's not far from mine. but he actually isn't even my favorite guy in this match, just because I love Shiloh so much.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Shiloh's probably my favorite guy on the brand right now, with some apologies, because I got a lot of love for the talent on this brand right now. A lot of really interesting talent, most of it young. Jada Parker probably being next, if not first. I love Jada. Lots of people to think about, but she's not around.
Ryan
But
Slarn in the
yeah,
chat.
they're
Ethan Page is 21 days away from breaking Oba's record. Thank you,
okay.
Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah. There you go. They could even tie it if they want to, because 21 is a multiple of 7. So if they want to do that in 3 weeks on free TV, they sure could. But that would be what? The 24th, 3rd, the 10th. That would be on the show after Vengeance Day, which is unlikely, because those are usually used to set up new directions. But a new direction could be a new champion, so they could do that if they really wanted to, and get cheeky and make it a tie. But yeah, Vengeance Day. God, Vengeance Day. Why are they sticking with the name Vengeance Day? It is such hot garbage. We talk about this every year. It doesn't sound like anything.
If you're gonna use it.
Yeah,
or bring back No Mercy. Come on.
Yeah. It's no good. Okay, so Shiloh was all over the show. He had his scene with Miles Bourne, where things got a little chippy. This is where I decided it was triple threat, not because of the main event. I thought it was triple threat because this scene with Hill and Bourne. And then they also had Shiloh in a scene earlier on with Sarah Schreiber. Hey, she's still a thing. You never know who's going to be there. Sarah Schreiber, Kelly Kincaid, Blake Howard. I literally don't know who to put at the top of the of my post, because it's literally just guesswork. And then Hank and Tank were there, and Hank and Tank are in some ways not totally my guys, although I think they fulfill a very big need. But I thought it was very funny that they laughed along with Shiloh Hill, even though their characters are too dumb to know what he was talking about. I thought that was really fun.
Quantum entanglement. I loved it. It
Tank especially is like, ha ha ha, like just like big faced laugh, and he has no idea what he's talking about. I thought it was great. But yeah, Shiloh, if you've watched wrestling long enough and you watch this episode, then you could be annoyed that Hill lost, but you know that they're working hard towards Hill being a big deal. So
that's obvious.
Yeah. So that was your main event. Let's talk about the segment with Joe Hendry and Ricky Saints. This is something you thought they'd put in the crossover, but they didn't. They did. Okay, so this happened. There was a parking lot thing. Ricky showed up. Joe Hendry attacked him, and I thought that Joe Hendry needed a scene like this, where he just went in stone-faced and kicked the ass of a guy that messed with him. This was the knock against John Cena for years, that even if he was in a storyline that would suggest that he should be serious and angry and everything like that, he'd still go to the ring the same exact way every week. And I just did not like the way he was produced at that time. Just smiling and doing his usual stuff, even when he was in something that should have been more personal. And Joe Hendry, seeing him do this, I mean, that's where it goes. So Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, that's going to be at Vengeance Day. Joe Hendry saying, if you're not a little bitch, which is his go-to phrase, you should come to the ring. And Saints, of course, like a good heel, takes one step off the perch and then is like,
or like good bitch.
Sure. And he says, hey, well, since you're so, he called him a meme, which I thought was great. He did all the things that you would want a heel Ricky Saints to do to a face Joe Hendry. He really picked at all the scabs that were available. I thought this scene did a lot to promote their match on both their parts. Ricky had the bigger job tonight, and he really, really knocked it out of the park. I thought this was really good stuff on him. Just playing with, good fella in the chat says, I like Joe Hendry tonight. Ricky Saints was blurring some lines tonight. I liked it. Yeah.
Yep.
He's using some of the real stuff and messing with that. And when you're using the real audience acceptance thing, that can be a dangerous thing to get too close to the line of what is real and what is like pro wrestling real. I thought JC Jane really failed at that tonight because she said, I'm going out there having great match after great match. And I'm like, that's not the goal of a wrestler. Like, I know that's the goal of an actual person who is in wrestling, but that's not the goal of a wrestler who's trying to win matches. They're not trying to have great matches. So I thought that was just a massive failure line by JC Jane. One that WWE has repeatedly had people say, and it's just so stupid because it's not supposed to be what they are trying to do. We're on Saints Hendry, lest I get too far from what we're actually talking about. I just dig what they did here, and it's interesting that they did it so early because they had so many other stories to tell with Paige and with the tag division and with the women. So kind of cool that they laid this out the way it was. It was a weird, busy show, but I really dug it. But on your assumed main event storyline, Nate.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I thought it was a little weird that it was placed where it was, but considering what the rest of the show was, I think it was probably placed in the right spot. At least the crowd got to see Joe Hendry, got to see Ricky Saints, before Joe got escorted out of the building or kicked out of the building. I don't think he was escorted. I think he walked away under his own volition. That said, I don't have much more to add here, to be honest. I really liked the segment. I thought Ricky went hard, but not too hard. And I really like the way that Goodfella put it. He blurred those lines. Yeah, I'm not going to belabor the point. I don't really have much to add outside of what you've already said. So there we go.
4-way tag match. This is your crossover. Hank and Tank versus OTM versus The Calling versus The Vanity Project. 11:33. This is exactly, on paper, the kind of match I hate, but I actually dug this because this was cut into two segments before and after the commercial break. Yes, it was on during the commercial break, but I don't pay attention to that. That's a little inside baseball. I pay almost no attention to what's going on during the break, unless I want to make a point with it or anything like that. I'll do it if it's a battle royal, just in case anybody gets eliminated, which they sometimes do. But yeah, Hank and Tank OTM calling Vanity Project. I thought this was a really good showcase for OTM and for Nico Vance. So OTM got a lot of hype in the first half of the match. They basically dominated everything before the commercial break. Afterwards, this went to the same kind of garbage match, everybody's in there all the time thing. They did a very contrived spot where all four faces did superplexes to all four heels, but they weren't all at the same time. It was like 2 and 1 and 1, and then there was an NXT chant, and I was like, let's not give them a chant. They didn't do what they were going for. It was okay. But
a little contrived, but yeah.
I thought a good night for Nico Vance in general, because The Calling had a backstage segment, one of their low lit segments where they're hanging out, and Nico got to say a bunch of stuff, and he was good. He was pretty decent. It was pre-taped, but he did stuff, and it was on the same night where he was in there getting a heavy segment in the ring, which I don't think is any accident. I think that they wanted all that stuff front and center, and they are actually kind of trying to pull him to the forefront. The Vanity Project win in the most hilarious way possible. I absolutely love Chicken Shit Heels to win this way. Brad Baylor was absolutely out on his feet, just totally out. But Sean Spears was on his back, and Ricky Smokes just shoves Brad Baylor so he will fall dead-bodied, Greg Valentine style, on top of. Sorry, I'm very old. That's why I'm wearing a Danger Mouse shirt.
Oh
So
shit,
he
that is
falls.
Danger Mouse.
It is.
Yeah. All right.
So he falls on him, Greg Valentine style, and is out, and is basically just like unconscious, does not know he's won the match or anything like that. But Brad Baylor makes the cover and wins. And all of this makes sense, except for the fact that the Vanity Project is going to face Dark State, which is a really weird dynamic. But I could see Tony D'Angelo getting involved and the Vanity Project winning this. So anyway, an unconscious Brad Baylor pins a semi-conscious Sean Spears because Sean Spears, at this point, I'm putting over guys that are half his age, is his job. So 11 minutes, 33 seconds. This is your crossover. And yeah, I'm not predisposed to like matches like this, but I like this match.
A good friend of mine, Christy, has a cat who's missing an eye, and she named him Danger Mouse. I thought you'd appreciate that, especially with Lord Fluffington and
love it.
All yes,
Corporal Fuzzington, but you are close enough.
I'm close. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, yeah, no, I'm with you. This was a lot of fun. This is a really good match, or entertaining match. Let me say that, entertaining match. I'm with Kelly. Usually, I'm not a big fan of these multi-man or multi-person tag matches just because it gets so chaotic and you get a lot of contrived spots like that superplex spot. But even that superplex spot, I know what they were going for. I think they were trying to go for 1, 2, 3, 4. Either they were going for 1, 2, 3, 4, or they were trying to go all at the same time.
I actually think they were going for 1, 2, 3, 4.
So do I, yeah.
And they went 2, 1, 1, which was actually like worse than everybody at the same time. It was okay.
Yeah, but even that, I thought it was fun. It was cheeky, like and that was, I guess, what this match was kind of meant to be. Like, I wouldn't expect to see a spot like that in a more serious, like, main event type spot or something. Well, then again, like, it's WWE, yeah, they probably do that. So whatever. I wouldn't want to see it in that. But yeah, like you said, Nico Vance really shined here, as did OTM. I mean, I think everybody did, Vanity Project included. Vanity Project was all over the show tonight, like, which is fantastic because I love those three guys. But Vanity Project versus Dark State next week, that's definitely going to be interesting. I was thinking the same thing. Tony D'Angelo probably interfere in that match, maybe cost Dark State the titles. I could certainly see that, especially after Tony D's match with Cutler James, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Tony seems like I really like the Tony D character right now because he's somebody that's lost everything and he's out for revenge. And that's like I in a way, I can relate to that so much, and I'm not going to get into it, but I can really relate to that. So him coming out and potentially costing Dark State the match next week is something I would like to see. I think that'd be kind of cool. Is Vanity Project ready to be the tag team champions right now? I'd say maybe yes. They're still,
I would say yes too, and they could have a hilarious reign, but
yeah,
I feel like it would be a massive missed opportunity to have them beat heels. Because these guys are all about generating heat. They should be beating somebody beloved like Hank and Tank.
Yeah.
No, and tonight they pinned the other heels. And I understand Sean Spears is the one who's there to take pins. I get that. But it would have been so much more powerful if they pinned Hank or Tank. And I guess they thought that protecting Hank and Tank for now is better.
Yeah. No, I hear you. But you know, as I've said many times before in the show, you know, Ricky Smokes, the guy who's local to me, the majority of matches that I've seen him in have been comedy matches, and partly because a lot of the shows that I'd watch him in were the and I've talked about it before, but Rad Pro Wrestling, where they pretend it's back in the 1990 early 90s. Everybody's got a weird 90s gimmick and so on and so forth. Um, and so he had a weird kind of uh, a brainwashed type gimmick. His name was Anju. Anyway, most of the matches I've seen of him have been comedic, and uh, like I don't know, he can do comedy really well. He can do comedy wrestling really well. I think, like you said, if you know, with Vanity Projects does win the NXT tag titles, I could see them having such an entertaining run with those titles. I'm up in the air. There's part of me that is like, you know, I've been wanting Dark State to be more, um, I guess just more. I've just wanted more out of Dark State, and I feel like we're kind of starting to get there. Each member is kind of getting a little bit of their own personality, not much, a little bit. Um, and you know, obviously, tag team champions. They've been kind of relatively, I guess, dominant as tag team champions. But so in a way, I don't necessarily want to see them lose them, but the prospects of what Vanity Project could do with those titles, how much fun a tag team match between them and Hank and Tank, for example, could be for the titles, things like that. I don't know. I think that I want to see that more than I'd like to see Dark State retain and kind of, you know, rise up the card. I think that honestly, if Tony D'Angelo interferes next week, Dark State loses the titles. Dark State's just they can rebound from that. I mean, their heels, you know, they get one over on Tony D next week to get some of their heat back, or something like, or the week after rather, to get some of their heat back, something along those lines. But yeah, I'm really curious to see which way this goes next week. I'm rooting for Vanity Project.
Yeah, I think I am, but I just don't know that this is who they should win them from. As I was saying that they
I
should,
agree with you there. Yeah.
as I was saying they should have won this on Hank and Tank. Ryan Slorio said or OTM, and I'd actually have to push back on that one. Yes, that works from a heat standpoint, but Hank and Tank, for one thing, are more beloved in the babyface sense, and also in the other sense, OTM are stone cold killers right now. Hank and Tank have taken so many losses that it doesn't matter that they take another one. OTM, they've taken some, but right now you're promoting them as monster baby faces. They are not helped at all by taking the pin in this one. So that's why I said that. I think it's interesting that Cutler James has been the most expendable one for me. And because he lost a 79-second match today, now he's the second most forgettable, because Osiris Griffin has done nothing of note in kind of a while. He's been the other guy in the tag team. He can't talk like Saquon. Very few guys on the roster can talk like Saquon. Saquon Sugars is just like, he's so weird in his own vacuum, because I feel like he's got superstar tendencies. He just doesn't have a superstar look necessarily, because he's not big enough necessarily. And like, he's not the most muscle bound. He's certainly not the tallest. He's just a guy who's got superstar tendencies, but he's not even like the leader of his own faction. I think Saquon's just such an interesting, like, in another company, like he could be the top guy in just about any indie.
Oh yeah.
But here he's kind of a guy. But yeah, for me, Cutler jumped ahead this week of Osiris Griffin in terms of guys I think of when I think about when I think about Dark State, which yes is never. But I if I were to think about Dark State, Cutler James is no longer last, although he is still going to be the one whose name takes me the longest to remember because it always is. It's such a WWE name, and so disposable. But yeah, he. You know, we didn't talk about the match, but let's. Tony D'Angelo beats him in 79 seconds. I feel like Tony D'Angelo is so strange in that they booked him like such a stupid character for 5 years that I thought was absolute total wasted effort the whole time, pushing a character who is like mafioso. It was never going to take off on a big level. And now for 3 weeks, they're like, let's push him stronger than we've ever pushed anyone, stronger and smarter and better. And then Tony himself is like, hey, man, I got this. I'm going to do my end of the bargain. I cannot believe how good the Tony D'Angelo TV has been for like 3 weeks here.
Yeah.
He's been. Now, what we haven't seen is a match of over 8 minutes, which is where Tony is basically the most boring guy in the universe. So we'll have to see where that ends. And I will say the unfortunate part of tonight is that he won with the spine buster, which he's not going to do on the main roster. He's not going to beat guys with the spine buster if he ever gets to the main roster, because everybody does a spine buster. But he's got a nice spine buster. Everything he did tonight looked really beautiful, but it was a 79-second match. His entrance is good. His mic work's been stellar. Every move was impactful, and the haircut is for me on the verge, but otherwise he looks cool.
I'm not one to. I can't mock people's haircuts.
Can't do the hair.
I just doesn't work for me. You know.
Right. So yes, as weird as it is to hear positive Tony D talk come out of my voice, because for 5 years I've been like, come on, man.
I actually almost think I should get a hold of your wife and see if you've got a fever or something.
Body snatcher thing, maybe even. Yeah. It's been very good. They're booking him right, and he is running with the ball. And you can book somebody right and they don't run with the ball, but he is. So I dig this. And anyway, he had a pre-taped segment walking around at night, which historically has resulted in him murdering people, but he didn't tonight. And then had a match with Cutler that was totally fine. Goodfella says, what's the Tony D plan? Main roster hand, mid-card champ, top guy, NXT lifer. Why the investment? The investment because he's big. I wish there were more to it than that, but he's big. And they must also like him personally, because honestly, if they didn't like him personally, he would have washed out a long time ago, because he wasn't all that. I think that I've always thought that his best case scenario was main roster hand, but for years I said he'll never make it there. Never. And now I think he will. I still think that his height might be Baron Corbin, but if you can be Baron Corbin for 5 to 7 years, you should be Baron Corbin for 5 to 7 years. And that can be okay. Top guy is what they want out of anybody they invest in. And I don't think he's that, but I'm kind of an asshole in that way, because I don't think Braun Breaker is worth putting effort into. And they think that he's like a future several time. Like he was supposed to win the Royal Rumble this year, and then they changed their minds. And I think that would have been an absolute nightmare, because
he got a hernia.
What's that?
He had to go out for hernia surgery.
Right. And I just think that would have been terrible, because he's not good enough to warrant that spot. So I have a high bar, I guess, in some ways for what I'm looking for. But I think that, but right now, I finally see what they have always seen in him. And I never thought I would. And that's very exciting. So on Tony D.
No, I'm like I've always been a little bit higher than you on Tony D. Granted, a lot of it for me was the character. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I like a mafioso character. Hell, I might have said this before. I don't remember. My friends and I, we every few years we go back to making a movie called The Mob Boss. So we've been making it for like almost 20 years now. So like every few scenes we get older and older. It's kind of cool actually. But anyway. So I always dug the Tony D character, but I will give you the fact a lot of his matches were a little subpar, a little boring at times. If we wind up getting out of Tony D'Angelo in the future in longer matches, what we got tonight in this 80-second match, I'm here for it. Like one of actually literally my only note tonight for this match was holy shit, Tony. He had an aggression that I haven't seen out of him before. I I think his spear, I think is going to be decisive, or divisive rather. But I really like it. I thought it was very impactful. It looked more like
I did too. I'm not a
more,
spear guy in general, and I think
yeah,
that's because I absolutely hate Goldberg. But
yeah, fair.
I liked the spear that Tony D did.
Yeah, because like you look at Jey Uso's spear. Even as much as I am a fan of Adam Copeland, Edge, I've never thought he had a really good spear. But man, there's some just the way that it kind of came out of nowhere, and it's snappy and very impactful. Like yes, please keep using that. Um, he's definitely he's either leaned down or bulked up. I can't tell because I haven't seen a good comparison of him from before the family broke up to now. But his look is great. So and I think he can also deliver on the mic. So I agree with you. I think that's kind of probably his ceiling is kind of Baron Corbin-esque on the main roster. To be completely honest, I might even put him a notch below that, even as much as I like Tony D. Because I don't know how well this character is going to translate to the main roster. Similar to how I wasn't sure how the mafioso character translates to the main roster. Right now, he has a mission statement. He lost everything, as I said earlier, and now he's coming back for revenge on Dark State. That's the story. Us as fans, we can latch on to that. But once he goes up to the main roster, he could still have the exact same intensity that he has right now, as we saw tonight. But if he doesn't have a good story, then he's just going to be another intense guy, and they're going to have to kind of build him up from scratch, which they kind of have to in some respects with call-ups anyway. Although in the Triple H era, it's a little it's not Karrion Kross coming out with a skirt and a mask. Okay, so there's that. So a little, I don't know. So it could potentially translate, but that is something I do worry about with this character. That said, though, at least for right now, I'm totally on board. I really really dig what they're doing here. I like the fact that he did take Cutler James out in 79 seconds. Like as much as I keep talking about wanting Dark State to be more, I want more out of them to make them more of that anarchy type stable that I feel like they want us to think of them as. I also really like the fact that this was just a quick, I don't want to call it a squash because I don't really think it was, but just a really quick, decisive win for
79 seconds. I'm going squash with this.
All right, we'll call it a squash. I was trying to be nice. We'll call it a squash. But I like this quick, decisive win for Tony D.
Let's put it this way. There was a speed match on this show that was more than twice as long as this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, and we'll get to that. We'll get to the speed shit later. I got things to say. But yeah, like I said, overall, I think this is a good move for them. To give him a win in that amount of time. And let's keep the momentum going with Tony D. It's hell, you've turned Kelly, guys. So let's keep going.
What's next? Nikita Lyons. I think it's hilarious that Nikita Lyons has been featured on NXT once in like the last 20 weeks, and it's the only episode I didn't see because I wasn't here and I didn't go back and watch it. And they apparently watch it and were like, oh, right, that's why she wasn't here. Yeah. Like, there's 3 weeks now that they're just like, nah, let's not follow up on that.
I got to give her credit where credit's due. She was a little bit better in the ring, but man, whatever hippie Karen gimmick they were giving her, just what? No, it was so bad. It was terrible. I don't want to see it on the screen.
I'm going to have to take your word for it that she was better in the ring because I watched her
a lot
of Evolve matches, and all of them were hot garbage. Okay, so Zarya's all, Ruka, go to hell. And then she's like, well, maybe heck. And then she's like, okay, heaven. So anyway, Zarya and Sol Ruka, will they or won't they? That's your big thing. Zarya did tell Sol Ruka to go to hell in a scene that was pretty okay. And although you knew it wasn't going to be the end because it happened backstage and not in front of people. So then you had okay, how many times were they on tonight? Kind of a lot. Then you had the Fatal Influence scene. They went out there. We didn't even know why. And JC Jane was talking about her match with Sol Ruka and saying, I bet you think that I'm mad about that. And she said, I'm jealous of Sol Ruka because even though I'm having great match after great match, and I was like, JC, you've been so good lately. This is a massive step back to talk about having great matches, which she's been having, but that's not a thing to say when you're a wrestler trying to win matches. And Sol Ruka finally comes out. This is right after the Go to Hell. And Zarya comes out. She has Fatal Influence pick Sol Ruka up. But then, speaking of spears, she spears, I think, Fallon Henley. Then she takes down Laney Reed and dumps JC Jane and then gives Sol Ruka a hug. Everything is cool and nothing bad will happen next week, Nate. I am so sure of it. But anyway, they had a scene towards the end of the show where they made up and Miles Bourne walked by him and said, I know what I have to do. So, putting two things together for the hell of it. I like it when they do that. I like when they have characters mingle who wouldn't otherwise mingle. I think that's a really nice touch that this company does.
I get a theory for that.
Go ahead.
So I'm thinking, I'm thinking where, Miles comes out and, he's like, I know what I need to do. And then he goes out, he does something unusual, aggressive, something like that. I'm wondering if if it's a little bit of foreshadowing for what we might get out of Sol and Zarya. Because, I'm still not ruling out Sol turning on Zarya at this point. I think it's going to be Zarya turning on Sol, but they've gone back and forth so many times now, and I could almost see Sol look, you've been wishy-washy, yada yada. I know what I've got to do, and I've got to break off. I mean, that's one of the things that JC Jane said in her promo is you've got to know when to leave your best friend, and then we have Miles Bourne coming through a little later and is like, I know what I got to do. So I'm wondering if maybe that's some weird foreshadowing where Sol has one of those eureka moments where she goes, I think I know what I got to do. And she breaks it off with Zarya, whether it be a heel turn or not, I don't know. But that was kind of what I was thinking in that moment when Miles Bourne walked by there. So we'll see. I don't know if it's that nuanced, but sometimes they do put some foreshadowing things in like that, and it is nuanced. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, this back and forth with Sol and Zarya, I don't know. I when they had the initial segment where Zarya tells Sol to go to hell, I'm thinking to myself, exactly what you said. Okay, we know this isn't it. This is happening backstage. Something else is going to happen. I didn't realize that something else was going to be less than 20 minutes later. Sol's like, okay, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. And she comes out. I mean, she didn't say that at that point, but she comes out and saves Sol Ruka and then says, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry later on in the show. But I, I I don't know. They're going back and forth like almost every episode at this point. I want them to just pull the trigger and go one way or another. Like I enjoy Sol Ruka and Zarya together. I don't remember where it was in the chat, or I'd pull it up, but somebody in the chat said that they hope that they go up that both Sol and Zaruka go up together at the same time as a tag team. So I mean, there are clearly people out there that like the pairing. So if they like it and it's working, let's make up and just keep rolling with them as because they did the same thing with Fraxium. You know, they go back and forth with Nathan Frazier and Axiom. I feel like it's the same storyline again, just with women instead of men, and almost just as long. I don't know. You know, obviously we saw Fraxium stay together because now they're on the main roster and yada yada. But so yeah, I'd kind of want them to just pick one way or the other. Are we breaking them up or not? Because like this back and forth every week is, I don't know. Like this week wasn't so bad because I do feel like it kind of, even though it was a go to hell and then immediately she just was like, nope, I'm sorry, I didn't realize what I was saying. I feel like tonight is probably going to advance the story along a little bit more, but generally most weeks I'm just kind of like, oh my god, let's just get to the finish of this storyline. And that's kind of how I started feeling about Fraxium after a little while. You know, and again, it was a very similar storyline where Axiom was upset at Nathan Frazier for focusing on things outside of their tag team, just as Zarya is upset at Sol for focusing on things outside of their tag team and getting more opportunities and things. So yeah, I don't know. I love the two of them. I really do. But personally, pick. I really hope NXT just picks one. You know, will they or won't they? And let's get to the end of it. And let's move on with our lives. I don't know. I sound more heated about it than I really am, I think. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
And I will say, although I've said this before, I'm cool if there's a team that just bickers all the time. I think that's fine. I like it's not done. I know that's not what is done historically in wrestling, but I'm fine with the team that doesn't quite always get along. And if you decide to split them up, then you've got a million built-in reasons to finally do it.
Yeah.
But if you've got two characters that are very different, as Zarya and Sol are, and if you've got them with a mismatch in the way you want to push them, and therefore how successful they are, that's a built-in storyline too. And I think that's totally fine. For the three, there are three outcomes here: Sol turns heel, Zarya turns heel, and reconciliation. And the thing that everybody has expected for a while, mostly, is Zarya turns heel. I think they were for a while working towards Sol because they were like, try her out before final form. Those are the three options for the way it turns out. And for me, honestly, the most interesting is reconciliation. It really is, because this has gone on so long with them teasing one or the other turning the other way. That's why I actually think that the most interesting ending to this is reconciliation. I actually, but yes, Ryan Solorio says the quiet part out loud. Hard to focus on the tag team with no tag team belts. LOL.
Yeah, they could just bring the knockouts belts over or something.
Right.
Yeah, but
which,
no,
you
I agree.
Challenged for. Yeah. So yeah, lots of changes there. Iconics were very recently the Knockouts champions and on this show, and now they're in AEW. But yeah, things happen quick in wrestling every now and then.
Like Adriana Grace winning the Knockouts title. I didn't even know that happened until tonight.
Ariana. Yep. Ariana Grace.
What did I say?
You said Adriana. Adriana is.
Because I think I was thinking of Rizzo. After
Adriana Rizzo is on our
earlier.
minds.
Yes.
Because my friend and yours, Tom Stout, ran into Adriana Rizzo and talked to her because Tom lives in Orlando, and talked to her. Said she was super sweet and really psyched about being recognized for the work she's doing because they're wrestlers. Like, wrestling fans think wrestlers are famous, and nobody else in the world thinks wrestlers are famous. And Adriana Rizzo is not famous for a wrestler. Like, I remember as a kid seeing so there was a it was a trivia show that was hosted by Regis called The Challengers that I loved, and it was on right after Jeopardy or something. And they asked, okay, here's a picture they showed Sergeant Slaughter and Hulk Hogan because it was WrestleMania 7 main event. And it said, on the right is Sergeant Slaughter. Who is the man on the left? And I was like, why did they not do it the other way?
I thought you were going to say it was the other way.
And my mom said, wrestling's not as big as you think. Like I know she understood already that wrestling was in a vacuum. And I've gotten into so many arguments with people online where they were just like, well, she'll just have an acting career. And I was like, why? She's a wrestler. She's not famous. She's no more famous than I am, and actually makes less money than I do. Like, just I think that people. This is a rant I've been waiting to go on for years. Wrestlers are not famous. They're so famous with us. We love them so much, but like he met her, and she was so excited about it because she doesn't get recognized a lot. And I had the same thing about 15-20 years ago with Shelton Benjamin, where I'm not a fanboy, but I kind of fanboyed on him because of all the wrestlers I could have met at that particular exact time in history. Shelton Benjamin's the one I wanted to meet most because I liked him more than any other wrestler. This is like 2006. I told him that I was ordering WrestleMania specifically because I wanted to see what he did in the Money in the Bank match, and that was 100% true. I was not feeding him a line. And then I was like, "Oh, your daughter wants to buy PSP games. Let's move on to that." So that's what we did, and Shelton was super cool, by the way. And Shelton did the same thing as Ariana Grace to Tom.
Adriana Rizzo.
Oh yeah, wrong person. Adriana Rizzo to Tom Stout, where in both cases we were like, I'm not going to ask for a handshake or anything like that. And they were both like, hey, let me shake your hand. Thank you for supporting what I do. And I think we sometimes forget that wrestlers are not like super famous. And so being recognized and then actually being like loved to some degree, especially when they're, Shelton was popular, but he wasn't John Cena.
Yeah.
And
especially John Cena, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, like, you're not. Yeah.
And exactly. Adriana Rizzo isn't even super known for NXT. Like, I just misnamed her, and I love NXT. So there you go. And I like her. So anyway,
I've never had an opportunity to tell this story, and I'm just going to throw it in there. And it's one of these stories that nobody really believes, but if it comes from my best friend's wife, and she is one of the most truthful and honest people I've ever met. She's not a wrestling fan. My buddy is. Not really. He kind of is. He likes wrestling. Doesn't keep up with it. Attitude Era fan. Anyway. But I've said it before. I could basically spit and hit West Newbury, Massachusetts from here, and this maybe about 10 years ago or so. And my buddy's wife, she's in the grocery store, and she goes to turn into an aisle and literally walks into somebody, and she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you." Looks up, and it's fucking John Cena. And she actually said she couldn't see him, and it was him.
Wow.
Talked with him for a little bit. Nikki, and she was like, yeah, and his like girlfriend or something was there. And me and my buddy were like, you mean Nikki Bella was there too? Like she had no idea who Nikki was. She barely knew who John Cena was. To the point where I wouldn't be surprised if she said like didn't even know the "You Can't See Me" thing was his thing at the time anyway. But yeah, I've never told that story on air, and I love it. So there we go. Had to.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is that like wrestling is such that we consider Cena to be one of the great crossovers, and we consider Batista to be one of the great crossovers. And my mom, who gave birth to me and my brother, two massive wrestling fans, we were talking about Knives Out, and I said something about Batista, the wrestler, and she was like, "He wrestled?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yep.
That's why
There
he
are
got
so many
noticed.
people.
Yeah.
There are so many people don't even know that The Rock got his name from
Yeah.
wrestling, and
Yeah.
his dad being Rocky Johnson and all that. Like,
Yeah.
why is The Rock The Rock? I don't get it.
We're in a bubble, folks. A real small bubble. I love this bubble, but we're in a small bubble. Okay.
I'll stop being a mime now.
We should talk about mimes are fantastic. Since you're talking about mimes, let's talk about a French guy, Elio Lefebvre versus Eli Knight.
What a segue, which is also French.
I know. I was going to talk about another match, but you said mime, and I was like, French. Let's do it. Versus Eli Knight. And they went 3 minutes. It was fine. It was two small guys doing small guy stuff, but I'm more excited to see two small guys trying to cut down a big guy in the Obafemi triple threat kind of milieu. French. Let's stay French. Robert Stone comes out and says it's a triple threat, and they're like "Lubadadoo." They didn't say that, but at any point, at any rate, Elio Lafleur, Eli Knight, and I was going to say Jackson Dart.
Jasper Troy
is a quarterback and not a wrestler. Jasper Troy. They are going to have a triple threat, and it's going to go 7 minutes because there are more people. It doesn't make sense that they need to add time for people because triple threats pins can happen anytime, but they did it, and that's fine because I think it's going to be cool. I would say interesting that they did not have Jasper Troy actually weigh in on this in any way on a show where basically it was this episode was an employment program. Like everybody was on it, and except Jasper Troy. And I thought Jasper did pretty well in his talk segments in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what this does because all three of them are greenish as it relates to this particular brand. But I think that this could be a lot of fun with him swatting down a couple of flies. But there are two of them, so they could be real trouble for him. I think Jasper Troy is winning this. And I think that the fact that, and I wouldn't have said that except it's a triple threat now. I think he wins this and these guys move on to something else and he continues to thrive working short matches, which is, I think, the best thing he can do right now. But anyway, Elio Lafleur versus Eli Knight.
So I think this is a great match. For what it is, like I've talked about the speed thing before. Not a huge fan of it, whatever. But for what it is, I mean, this was a great showcase of what these two can do. Super high flying, super quick, super fast. And Vic pointed this out on commentary, but there was a point where Eli Knight, launches himself outside the ring, lands, tweaks his ankle, which was kind of part of the story of the match. But then he looks up at the time, and you don't see many people do that. I don't think I've seen anybody do that during a speed match, or at least it being called out anyway. But I think that just kind of adds that authenticity of the match to that, to how what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Just the urgency. Thank you. I don't know why I said thank you. It was my own brain that came up with it, but there it is. The urgency of winning the match in 3 minutes. So I did like that little thing where he looked up at the clock. okay, so it was obviously this match ended after the time ran out. We have Mr. Stone come out and say, normally Jasper Troy would just retain his title. Now, when the hell was that rule established? Don't come out here and say normally, Mr. Stone.
It's possible that happened on X, but I don't know that would.
Yeah, I don't know. And if it was on Twitter, because I refuse to call it anything else, if it was on Twitter, like, why? I don't know. You should establish that rule again a few weeks ago before we got here, so we knew it was coming, and it wasn't just like I don't know. I did not like that. I did not like the fact that he comes out and he's just like, well, normally, because the second I heard, or the second I see Mr. Stone walk out, I was going to say the second I heard his music, but I don't know anybody's music anymore because Def Rebel. But anyway, second I saw Mr. Stone, I was like, okay, he's either going to restart this match or he's going to make it a triple threat. It's going to be one of the two. And then he makes it a triple threat. So, yeah, I don't know. But now he makes it a triple threat. And you seem to be okay with them adding the extra time on for the match where it's a triple threat, make it 7 minutes. But it's a speed match. You're supposed to get it done in a certain amount of time, in a certain allotted amount of time. Now, granted, that allotted amount of time, 7 minutes. But how many times have I seen a triple threat match that goes 3 minutes or 5 minutes? Many times over the course of my almost 30 years. Oh, God. 30 years as a wrestling fan?
I think the bigger issue is that if the match ends with no winner, then somebody comes out and restarts the match anyway. So the amount of time that the match is getting does not matter. So, like, if it were to run out in 7 minutes, he's going to come out and say, no, I want a winner. So, like, what's the point?
Right.
So if it ends in 6:45, which I think it will, then no harm done. But if it ends at 7 and then they say, hey, we need a winner, then it's like, what is this division even?
Yeah. And this is one of the things I was going to say is, like, Goodfella brings up, 2 minutes added for championship match, but now another 2 minutes for another person. Okay. And that's what I was going to say is they already add another 2 minutes for a championship match as it is. So why add another 2? I don't know. I don't like the whole speed concept, the whole timed thing. I understand what they're doing, and there is a benefit of Jasper Troy being champion, and he can have some short matches while he's still honing his craft and things like that. There are some pluses to it, but I don't like the concept, and now they're messing with that concept even more, and they're making it from something that's supposed to be quick and fast and speedy, mostly because it was designed to be on friggin' social media where nobody has more than a 4-second attention span anyway. So I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the fact they added another 2 minutes here to this triple threat. I think it's going to be a good match, and it should be entertaining or whatever. But I don't know. The sooner they drop these 2 speed championships, the better, as far as I'm concerned. We already have way too many titles in this company. Drop the speed championship for both the men and women. Bring back the Heritage Cup, and then let's make another one for the women if you want another title. To give us something. Like, the Heritage Cup was just so cool, and the rounds matches and everything, like, that was a lot of fun. But the speed title is not a good replacement. I don't know if it's supposed to be a replacement, but considering that kind of came in at the same time the Heritage Cup went out, I'm calling it a replacement, and it's not good enough for me. God damn it. There we go.
Like the speed championships, and I like them in NXT because they're good for people who are not meant to work long matches.
Yeah.
That said, having to have a 4-person tournament every time and have that content to all be on the main show does seem like it takes up too many spots. But if the segments are short, then who cares? So I like the speed thing way more than I thought I would, because this is a division. NXT is a brand where there are a lot of wrestlers who aren't ready for 8-minute matches. And so I think of people like Lash Legend, who really, really, really could have benefited from a speed championship, where she could have been champion, and the fact that she never went more than 5 minutes could have been very easily explained, because she couldn't, because she was in matches that couldn't go more than 5 minutes. I just think that there are people, because her beginnings were real. They were beginnings. Let's just say that. And
Lashing out with Lash Legend.
oh man. Yeah, it took a while for her to get anywhere. So anyway, there we are. Okay, so the only other match on this show was Lola Vice versus Kalani Jordan, which was a really good match, but it's the only one that isn't intertwined with like 15 other things that happened on the show. So it was really easy to leave until last, because it kind of was in a vacuum. It started at the beginning, and then it's like 15 minutes into the show, the real show started. They didn't give us last week results or anything like that. It's something they almost always do. They didn't do it. 11 minutes and 40 seconds, Kalani by submission, and you knew that would happen because she's been injuring Lola Vice's hand for weeks. I won't belabor it. I'm just not a Lola Vice guy. I think she's fine. I don't think her ceiling is super high. I think she's good-ish. And Kalani, I think, is better than goodish. I wish she was better on the mic, but she has gotten to be 1,000 times better than she started on the mic, when I was very worried for her when she just could not do it at all. But yeah, 11 minutes, 40 seconds submission, Kalani Jordan over Lola Vice.
No, I think this is a good match. I mean, it was definitely intense, and it showed. Well, I guess it continued to show that kind of harder side of Kalani Jordan. I really like what Kalani has been doing, since turning heel. She kind of had that soft heel turn where is she a heel? Isn't she a heel? She's kicked out of the locker room, all that. But in her run as Knockouts champion, I thought, at least on NXT TV, because I really didn't see much of her TNA run as Knockouts champion. I haven't had the time really to follow follow TNA recently, but yeah, I really like what they've been doing with her. And she's had that more of an edge, especially over the last handful of weeks, attacking Lola Vice and trying to injure the hand and kind of give herself a little bit of a one up. Last week Lola Vice said, I think it was to Mr. Stone. Oh yeah, I think it was Mr. Stone, because he was saying if you're not if your hand's not good, we're not going to clear you for the match. And she's like, no. If I have 2 feet, I've got kicks. Like I'm gonna have this match, and she basically was not gonna take no for an answer to get her hands on Kalani. So I do like that for character development for Lola too. And like I said, good match. I kind of was expecting Lola to win here, because she's repeatedly gotten her hand taken out or whatever. So I thought maybe, at least going into the match, I thought maybe, she was finally going to give
I would have
Kalani
been
her
shocked
comeuppance.
if she won this one just because of the injury angle. But I also would have been really annoyed, because I'm just
Yeah.
so high on Kalani and so fine
No,
on
and I'm
Lola. Yeah.
and I'm totally 100% with you, because Lola, I see what the company sees in her, especially for like the Latin demographic and AAA and things like that. I understand it, and I think that that's totally fine. Um, and and I did see her. I went back and I watched her match, with her and Mr. Iguana versus Ethan and Chelsea, and I thought there was some hilarious spots in it. It was a good match. Um, so I definitely see what the company sees in her. She's not necessarily my cup of tea, and there's many other women in the NXT women's roster that I am more high on. But that said, I kind of was, at least going into the match, I was kind of thinking that Lola might, win because she's repeatedly gotten her hand taken out, and where she had that line last week about, as long as she's got her feet, or I forget how she said it, but as long as she's got her feet, she can still fight. I thought maybe because she also needs a win in NXT. She's lost so many matches in NXT. So that said, she didn't get the win. Kalani did, and I think that was the right choice, to be honest. Kalani, where I don't think she necessarily needed the win, like Lola may have needed the win. Kalani just kind of continuing to rack up those wins, and to be able to say, now I'm the only one that's tapped out Lola Vice. I think that's something she can put a feather in a cap in, and kind of talk about a little bit more, another accolade, things like that, to kind of build up Kalani Jordan. Lola's going to be fine. I mean, she can certainly eat some losses and things here, I guess, because the company is high on her. They're going to push her whether we like her or not. Hey, I'd rather see Lola Vice than Nikita Lyons, so fine by me. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have much more to say here, other than I'm sure we're going to see at least one more match between Kalani and Lola before this feud ends.
And I think we've seen kind of a lot, but I'm not the kind of guy who remembers anymore. Let me see if Kevin Catani emailed us. He did. Salutations, gents. I hope this email finds you well. Boy, that tag team match was something, eh? I mostly wanted to use my email today to give Ethan Page his flowers. I know we've all have a high opinion of the work he's been doing, but I also can't help but think there are some that would say they haven't seen enough. What do you all think is holding him back from a call-up? Is it that he's just too valuable to NXT right now, or are we missing something? Thanks as always. Go VIP and listen to the other Torch shows now that 8YB is done. Office hours are now over. The Professor, Kevin P. Catani, PhD. 8YB is over. You should have listened to it if you didn't, and you still can, and you should, because mostly we talk movies, and that stuff is evergreen. Just do it and shut up, people, okay? But anyway, yeah, what's holding him back from a call-up? I don't know. Timing is sometimes what it is, but when you've got a guy who is so good at staying in a heel context, regardless of the role of the story, I think you should call them up. But yeah, sometimes you need a couple of people to anchor NXT, and
that's what I think.
We've seen that a lot. We've really seen that a lot, where a few guys are there to anchor NXT, and who knows what they're being told behind the scenes. Maybe they're even being told you have to anchor this for a bit, and timing is everything. We've heard wrestlers who are no longer in the company say that they were told it's about timing, and if the timing doesn't work, we're sorry, but that is sometimes what it is. I think that it is that simple. Nate, it sounds like you do too, but weigh in if you've got anything else.
No, I think it really is just that simple. Ethan is very good. He's one of the most entertaining things, objectively, I guess, or subjectively, in NXT. He's one of the veterans, really, that NXT has. Other than like guys like Sean Spears and things like that. But Sean he's not a main roster guy, main event guy. Ethan Page is. Sure, he's holding the mid-card title, but he's a former NXT champion. So he can kind of anchor that show in a way like Bayley had to when the Four Horsewomen got called. 3 of the 4 Horsewomen got called up, and Bayley needed to stay back to kind of anchor the women's division. I think really that's all it is with Ethan Page. He's clearly main roster ready, and I think he was the day he walked into WWE for AEW. but yeah, and like I said, Chelsea Green has gone on record at least once. I've said it many times, but at least she's gone on record at least once saying that she is politicking to get him up to the main roster for and get the two of them together. So I think it's honestly just a matter of time. Um, uh, with we talked about it earlier, Ethan Page probably potentially losing his title, at some point in the near future, whether it be in this maybe triple threat, maybe Miles Bourne, I don't know. But he's coming up to that Obafemi Carmelo Hayes reign. How long the number of days. So I can't imagine his reign's going to be much longer than this. Maybe like I said, he might lose it next week. It might be another month. Maybe, if they do want him to surpass Oba's reign. But and I think once he loses that, it's just going to be a matter of time before he gets called up. We usually see some call-ups around Stand and Deliver, WrestleMania season type. So it could happen. It definitely could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if he loses the belt and shows up on the Raw after Mania or something like that.
The only other stuff that happened on this show was the Calling had one of their things, and Easy Dame cut on Tatum a bit after watching Tatum's video from last week. Ethan Page and Vanity Project talked. Miles Bourne showed up. Ricky Saint showed up. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves. He's an actor. Kind of. But Keanu Carver, he is a wrestler. He's scary.
Carter.
Yeah.
Is it Carter or Car? Actually, is it Carter? I wrote Carter. Carver. Okay, you're right. Not me. I'm wrong. I wrote it wrong.
Yep. He's scary, and he likes to hurt people and not get in trouble for it. Uriah Connors
and talk about snot bubbles. That was my only note was Keanu Carver. Keanu Carver likes talking about snot bubbles.
I didn't write down the snot bubbles, but unfortunately, I did remember them. Goodfellas says John Wick is also scary. Yeah. Keanu Reeves is not like a good actor, but he's so good at being John Wick. I have watched and enjoyed all 4 John Wick movies because I'm a dork. And by 4, I mean 5, because there's John Wick 1 through 4, and then there's Ballerina, and he's in Ballerina like enough for him to matter. So, and like none of them are overly good movies, and all of them are so much fun to watch anyway. Uriah Connors talked to Charlie Dempsey, and then Stax, Grace, King. They all show up. Uriah is going to face Cale Dixon next week. Cale, I'm so sorry about what's about to be your career. But I mean,
it ain't looking good for him. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. And they explained away Stax by saying,
at least he's marrying.
I'm marrying into it, and I was like, good enough for me for this story. And then Fallon Henley had her scene with Robert Stone, with Blake Monroe finding out she has to face Thea Hale in the speed tournament. Everybody was on this show except Nikita Lyons, because
and Jasper Truck.
Yeah, right. He wasn't on it either. So, anything else before we run for the exits?
No, not really. The thing that I out of everything that you just kind of ran down, the thing that I'm most interested in is the I don't know. I think we're calling it birthright. I know that's at least what they're saying in the chat here. I kind of like I like what they're doing with the whole stable and everything. I'm just kind of wondering why Charlie Dempsey is, I don't want to say reluctant. Well, I guess, yeah, maybe reluctant to join the stable. Especially where they went to that well tonight of, Uriah Connors kind of saying, look, like, we grew up together. We've known each other since we were kids. We used to, wrestle around in my dad's ring and whatever. So I don't know why Charlie's kind of being so blasé, I guess, about joining this this faction. it almost to the point where I'm wondering if he's even going to join at all. I think he is, but I
He's
I
either
don't know.
joining or feuding with them.
Yeah, it's one of the two. So yeah. Um, in the chat, Ryan keeps talking about David Finlay being a free agent. Do you think we're going to get him in NXT as part of Birthright? I have no idea. I don't know anything really about David Finlay being a free agent, and whether or
He
not
is.
he's getting well. No, I mean whether or not he's getting picked up by NXT. I guess that's
Lots of
kind of what I was gonna
talk
say.
about that. I mean, everybody from New Japan is running for the exits, and I'm not entirely sure why. It was doing okay. Um, and then Ryan hits us with this one. Charlie Dempsey is a red herring for David Finlay. That is what I thought tonight, but I'm very plugged into New Japan, so I am just David Finlay is somebody who is on my mind on a regular basis because I watch all the New Japan matches, and that could be happening. It's just,
Do you think they'll give him a different last name than Connors and Finlay, but still call them brothers? Because that's something NXT would do.
it is something this company would do 100%. Because then they can have him be brothers, or they can have him be not brothers. But given this storyline, it seems like the only thing worth doing is to have them have those names. So if he comes in and if they give them brother names, I think they'll be Finlay. I think that they will get rid of him. And whether they call him David and Brogan or not, that is up for debate. But I think that they would be Finlay,
I
because why do the story if they're not going to be
I don't. Well,
that?
why do the story and keep calling him Braun Breaker? I don't think they'll switch the names to Finlay. I
I don't
really
think
don't.
anything has been good about Braun Breaker like since he started.
Well, but no,
I
remember
but
when
I know,
when he was in NXT, they kept bringing in the Steiner brothers, or
yeah,
not? Yeah, Rick and Rick and actually, did they bring in Scott? Yeah, they did. They brought in both of them.
yep.
And then they got inducted to the Hall of Fame and everything. They mentioned and they that he's a Steiner, but they still call him Braun Breaker. So I don't know. I feel like it's going to be the same thing with with
That family,
the
I just
Finleys.
don't know. Like that family, that you could have, you should have kept their names just what they are, because every time that they're like in some kind of interview that's supposed to be semi kayfabe, they've screwed it up and said their real names. I just remember once when the Steiner brothers were in a match in WCW. They had been the Steiner brothers for so long, Rick and Scott, and they had one time they needed their sister one time to do a soundbite, and she said Rob instead of Rick, and I was like, one time she had to say Rick, and she screwed it up and said Rob, and I was like, that is the Steinerist thing that she could have possibly done. Oh boy. Yeah, anyway, enough about my lifelong feud with the Steiners, because they are what they are to wrestling. We should get out of here because we don't normally go this long. I'm Kelly Wells. You can find me all over social media at Spooky Milk or at other Kelly Wells. Nate.
Nate Lindberg. You can check the things I do at natelindberg.com.
Cheers, and we will see you in 7.
Horseshoe.